is Loudspeaker.
Hi, and welcome to Connecting a Better World, where we spend time meeting some of the most incredible human beings who make this world a better place. We will learn how each individual took their ideas, mission, and purpose to create and serve others in business and organizations that surround social good, social entrepreneurship, and social impact, and find out how we, together, can further connect others to help. I am your host, Dr. Natalie Phillips. Today, I will be talking with Natalie Jark, web design coach, consultant, and speaker, helping people do good in this world and empowering businesses to do good through their work. She has a Facebook group called Doing Good Online, which is a community for small business owners who want to do good and master their website with ease. So excited because we got connected again on Clubhouse, but then also because we both had like a tagline that just captured both of us, I think, and it's doing good, especially online, I think. And so I'm super excited to have this conversation with Natalie because, I think that a lot of people want to do good, but they don't necessarily think that they can do good even online. And so I think it's really kind of cool. Natalie, you are a website designer, you're a consultant, you're a speaker. I love that you have a business, but you also help other businesses do good. So I am super excited about our conversation. So welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I love that I'm speaking with another Natalie here. We got our phrases down pat and we got the same awesome names.
Yay,
so
yes. Okay, so let's start kind of with your stories. I want you to tell me a little bit more, or tell my listeners a little bit more about who you are, and then lead into, what you're doing with your work right now.
Absolutely. Well, I'll take it a little ways back to my undergrad, actually. I actually went to school for broadcast news journalism, if you could believe that. Nothing in the tech world. I was like, I'm going to be the next Erin Andrews and get on the sideline and do all of that. But probably nobody has seen me on ESPN, so obviously that didn't work out very well. But it gave me a lot of, the skills and entrepreneurial spirit to get me where I'm at today. But eventually I fell into the web design world, the world of digital design and being creative and trying to do all of that. And I fell in love with trying to bring people's ideas to life, trying to build up people's ideas and help bring their good ideas, their ideas for doing good in the world to life through online experiences. And so I fell in love with being a user experience designer. And that's kind of a hot topic these days in like the startup world and especially the tech industry, because focusing on the user experiences and how people interact online has been so important. So I really fell in love with creating experiences for business owners and now teaching them what it means to do good online and create those inclusive spaces based off of an empathetic heart and mindset.
Ooh, I want you to elaborate a little bit more about that because that's really important. I do agree that the user experience is the way to go, and then also to not only help businesses understand, but for them to understand a little bit more about who they're serving, right? So I don't know if that leads into your empathetic side of leadership, but I want you to talk a little bit more about that.
Absolutely. So for me, it all starts with an empathetic mindset. It all starts with having that empathetic heart for your user and figuring out their needs over your own. But at the same time, as a business owner, you can't give up your goals and the things that will help you succeed. So I help people understand what it means to have an empathetic mindset by getting to know their users, understanding their problems, understanding their needs, figuring out how to serve them. But then we bridge that with their own business goals so that they can still succeed and bring their ideas to life in the real world and serve others through their ideas. So the empathetic mindset is critical to kind of helping you do good in your business, and actually succeed at the same time. Because if you figure out how to solve their problems from a very empathetic, relationship driven aspect, that you're actually creating trust with people and true relationships, right? You're going to succeed so much more. And in a day where all of our things are online, I mean, 2020 really kind of put us all into perspective that relationships can be built online. You need to start from a standpoint of empathy and trust to actually create those relationships.
And it's interesting because you think that small business owners, which I think is that like the bulk of who you work with, that they already have that empathetic mindset because they're there to serve. But I mean, I'm sure there are other small business owners as well that might not have that. Is that something that you teach, or is that something that as you're starting to work and get to know people, you're kind of like, I don't think this person quite gets it? And is it something that you can teach, or is it something that you're like, you know what, this is not necessarily then for me and how I can help them?
Absolutely. I mean, I'm driven more towards the people who want to get to know their users and want to like find passionate ways to serve their people. But it really comes down to like the root of business. If you want to be successful in business, you've really got to figure out how to serve your people. I mean, one of the biggest things in like product market fit validation when you're trying to start a startup or a new idea or whatever, it's figuring out what problem you're solving. So if you're coming directly from that business aspect, right? You can figure out how to solve people's problems, but how do you do it really well? You do it really well by getting an empathetic mindset so that you can start like truly understanding how someone feels, understanding their emotions, their journey, how they got to where they are, what happened earlier in the day that might have affected the decisions that they're making right here and now, and the emotions that they're feeling. And once that you tap into those emotions, those feelings, the journey, hence the empathetic mindset, that's when you really truly start to succeed. That's when you truly start to solve their problems. So it's really an in-between of, yes, it's a business mindset, but if you stack on and learn how to do the empathy side of things, you're going to succeed even more so because you're going to create those relationships. So I do believe that it can be learned. I think that anybody can do it as long as they are willing and passionate about serving their people.
Yeah. And I totally get it. Putting my audiology hat on for a second, it's almost like when I spend some time developing rapport with patients before I help them choose maybe the type of hearing aid that they're going to be fit with, right? Like I learn about their lifestyle and what's important to them and where they're missing out and how can I help you? What are your expectations? And then maybe even like today, this woman came in and she was so upset and so just not in a really good mood. And we decided to just gather everything up. And it's like, it's not about the sale, and just say, look, let's just reset, and why don't you go and we'll do this another day, like we'll schedule it another week, because there was just so much stuff going on in her life that she just wasn't focused. And and I'm getting what you're talking about, this empathetic mindset to be successful is that you don't just have this schedule of what you want to do, or like you building websites, or what your company wants to look like. You really have to understand, I don't know if you want to use the avatar, the person that you're talking to, your customer, your patient, right?
The persona is what I call them, or your dream client.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah. So I'm totally getting what you're saying with this empathetic mindset. And I do it in the audiology business as well. And, even though it already feels like it's a service providing, type of business, there's still that time where I'm like, I got to be on time. I've got patients. I've got people lined up. But if you can take that time to see it and, like you said, be open to seeing it from that perspective of who's sitting right in front of you, then it helps you have more of that empathetic mindset or that heart, right, for your clients.
Yes.
Totally understand.
Exactly. We all do it in different ways. Now we're just figuring out, I can do this online as well. Crazy how technology starts to blend in.
So talk to me a little bit more. Let's go back again. And did you kind of have a mentor, role model that might have sparked your, interest in just doing good?
Yes. I mean, first and foremost, my biggest role model is probably my father growing up, given that he was an entrepreneur and he tried to run a very, ethical, very service-based business where he was teaching people how to run their construction business better through quality bookkeeping so that they could be successful, right? So I watched him kind of go through that journey and serve his clients, and was always just super passionate about the entrepreneurial journey from him. But then, when I really started to root in last year and try to figure out what is my purpose, I mean, raise your hand if you like dug into that, like true purpose driven, like finding last year, especially. I know I did. And I joined something called Create Your Purpose Collective. And within that collective, I discovered in myself that in life, I just wanted to do good. I wanted to find ways that I could do good out in society and as a person, but then also empower others to do good. And that was their own unique perspective, right? Everybody can do good in different ways, whether it's serving at your local dog shelter, maybe you're serving on a board for like your child's school or something like that. There are so many different ways that people can do good that they just need to root into their own purpose to do good. And so that collective really helped me kind of establish, not a role model per se, but that time of me focusing in on what my purpose was really helped drive my do good efforts and how I could relate them to my business, because that's the bridge I was really trying to solve for a really long time.
Yeah, and I think that that's really cool, this conversation, because most of the conversations that I have on this show are people that have a nonprofit or a charitable organization, or something like that, or they're volunteering, right? And having this conversation of your heart is so passionate about doing good, right? I mean, that's why you went to find your purpose, and how do you actually mesh that together with your business? This is a really interesting conversation to have, because it can be so, when you're running your own business, you've got to make money, right? And you've got to, and you're focused so hard on that. But, even going back to probably your father, who was a role model for you, watching him run a successful business, but still run it and teach people to be able to do good while they're in their business. And even something as simple as what you were saying, like doing the books right, whether it is, just, very consistent and making sure that your I's are dotted and your T's are crossed and all that kind of stuff, just doing things right, as well as doing things good. Yeah. So it almost is like your father meshed it together, and you were kind of wondering, how am I going to be able to do the same? Because I have this heart to do it, but then also I want to be able to serve in my business. So I think that's a really cool conversation to have. I'm loving this because I think it's, it's totally making sense. Okay, so, talk to me a little bit more about your business. I want to learn a little bit more about your business. And then if you can figure out how to explain how you meshed that passion of doing good into your business.
Yeah, it took some soul searching, right? So, first and foremost, I'm a user experience designer at the core root of things. So I've done all different sorts of graphic design, if you will. I've dabbled in logo design. I've dabbled in print design, all of the different, Photoshop, Adobe's, all the things. But I really landed on the passion of product design. So designing SaaS products or applications, either online or mobile, or just doing web design. And I loved the possibility, the realm of what you could create online. So I really started focusing my efforts there and figuring out how can I use my user experience, like research and strategy methods, because that's where I'm really strong. I'm really strong in the sense of I love to get down to the nitty gritty details. I'm a little bit of a nerd in that sense, but I love to do the research to inform me about all of these different things like personas and user journeys, so that I can make qualified good decisions for the website, for the product, based off of real facts, real data that people will give you if you ask them for. Believe me, user tests are amazing. So getting to like the realm of exactly what I do is I provide UX product design and UX web design and development on the website side of things to create experiences online that are not only functional and look pretty, which is what a lot of people, that's what they
Hmm.
see, but they are actually solving people's problems through the unique experiences that we create together. So, bridging that into doing good. How the heck do you even bridge those two things, right? I was thinking about it a lot last year, and I kind of realized that being inclusive online is really extremely important. We need to be sure that everyone feels welcome, everyone feels accepted, no matter who they are, what they're doing, what they're passionate about, etc. But then also taking into account, let's say, those with disabilities. Accessibility online is extremely important, not only for the aspect of creating inclusive spaces and creating an experience that literally anyone, no matter who they are or if they have a disability, can access it in the same way, but also having it help you with your SEO and having it help you with getting found and actually creating quality experiences. Like, it helps from a business aspect too. Like,
Hmm.
light bulb moment, that's where it was. It's like, I can serve everybody and set everybody up for success, but also help them move their business forward with quality user experience practices as well as accessibility.
Yeah,
Does
yeah,
that make sense?
totally. So, can you think of, I was going to ask you for like an example, or if you're able to talk about, a business that you worked with, was there like an aha moment when you were
Yeah.
working with the business owner that they were like, oh my gosh, this is really cool. Like, I have not thought about it that way. Is there something that you can
Yeah.
think of that you can share with us kind of as an example with a business that you worked with?
Absolutely. So, some of my customers, this is actually kind of a repeat scenario that happens with a lot of my customers when I'm explaining to them the ideas around accessibility. So, let's say that a user comes on your website and they have a form of color blindness. Especially in males, color blindness is very common, actually. I think it's the red blue or red, so one of the versions of color blindness is very, very common across a lot of males, and people don't realize that if you maybe have chosen a color for a button, let's say like
Oh
an
my
add to cart
goodness.
button, and it's sitting on a background that doesn't have a lot of high contrast with the button, they will have problems finding that button. They will have problems adding that item to their cart. So if you're coming from an e-commerce perspective, they've gotten through the entire purchasing process. Basically, they know what they want, they've selected it, and all they want to do is add it to their cart, and they can't find the add cart button because it's not very high contrast, or they can't read certain words because they're not thick enough or they're too
Wow.
thin. So having those like color contrast and weight adjustments from a design
Hmm.
perspective will actually make a huge difference from an accessibility standpoint.
Wow.
And that's just one of many accessibility like ideas when it comes to color. Like, there's other things when it comes to screen readers and how someone who's blind experiences a website. Like,
Wow.
it's amazing to see where this really gets like tuned
Yeah,
into.
and like you don't even think about it. And I almost feel like,
Mm-mm.
as you go along, since you already know that, because you never know who's going to visit your website, right? Like it's almost
You
becomes a
don't.
list of no's for you to, right? To then,
Yes. Yeah.
counsel people like, yeah, okay, I love your colors, but just to let that
Mm-hmm.
this might not necessarily be the right option for you, because it's not like you're going to know if there is a
Yes.
colorblind person that visits your website. So it's almost like, okay, this is Natalie's no
Mm-hmm.
list. Like, we're not going there because I've already thought this through,
Yeah.
and so it makes it a lot easier because
Mm-hmm.
you've actually thought it through, or you've investigated it, or just
Yeah.
I don't even know how you came, you come up with your ideas of, oh, but then there's that population and then there's that population. It seems so overwhelming, obviously, because,
Mm-hmm.
I'm from the business standpoint, but that's why you trust somebody like you
Mm-hmm.
that can take you to think into some of those different realms, right? That's really cool. That makes a lot of
Exactly.
sense. Yeah.
Yeah, and if you're just thinking about those little things, you're creating inclusive environments by just doing
Yes.
that. By thinking about the color choices, thinking about the fonts that you're using, thinking about, from a developer
Mm-hmm.
standpoint, trying to think about how you're structuring the back end, something nobody
Mm-hmm.
ever sees, right? Except for the developer. structuring the back end so that a screen reader can read everything in the order that it's supposed to and doesn't jump around the page and confuse the
Wow.
user. You just want to just think of everybody and how they might be experiencing the web, so that you can not deter them away from
Hmm.
your site. You don't want them coming on their site and being like, I don't understand what she's trying to say. So I guess I'm moving
Wow,
on.
so interesting. What
Yeah.
what drives you to give back in any way, whether it's through what you're doing through your business, whether you go out and volunteer or provide time, your energy, anything like that. What
Mhm.
drives you to continue to give back?
I mean, I'm super passionate about just the empathy side of things in general. Like having that empathetic mindset is super critical to me, and kind of spreading the word about the empathetic mindset, or just having empathy in your heart. I
Hmm.
think that goes into real world aspects as well as what I do in business, but spreading the word and encouraging people to find and do empathy in the real world. That's what drives me. And watching people's ideas come to life, and you know, uh, watching someone actually experience things from the other
Hmm.
side. So, I mean, if you don't mind, I have a quick example
Hmm.
for you. I worked on a project with a Seattle-based hospital, Seattle-based children's hospital, and all these children, they were so sick. They were coming to the hospital for like really tough situations, and same thing with their families. And we built this whole very inclusive experience of this digital ocean, and how they experience something like that, and the technology behind it. Like, it was an empathy driven process, trying to find ways to make their visit a little bit better, make the fact that they have to go get a lot of tests done and shots done and they don't feel good, and they probably are coming from a long drive far away, understanding that journey, and then seeing them create their own fish on a little application and then send it into the ocean in the big realm of the hospital, seeing them bring those ideas to life. That's what drives me. That's what drives me. Those experiences when I can make somebody's day a little bit brighter by bringing them technology that really helps them succeed, and understanding the journey along the
Yeah,
way.
and I love that because whether you are doing it outside of your business, you're still making these authentic relationships and these connections. Whether you're doing it in your
Yeah.
business, you are getting
Hmm.
repeat business, right? And so just the
Yeah.
fact of doing good, I mean, I feel like it's a win-win and situation. And
Hmm.
so it's almost like it's a no-brainer, right? To learn how to have,
Yeah.
whether it's the empathetic mindset, whether it's just kind of just keeping in the forefront of just doing good, right? And I know that we keep
Yes.
using that, but I mean, there's no other way to say it. There really is
Yeah.
no other way to say it.
No.
So tell us a little bit
No.
more about, what are you working on? I know that you've got this really cool Facebook group, so I want you to talk about that. But what are some things
Yeah.
that or connections that might help you continue to do good in this world? So talk to us a little bit about what
Yeah.
projects you're working on.
Sure. So, like you mentioned, the Facebook group, it's called Doing Good Online. So it is a hybrid of, I'm going to be teaching about some of these things around accessibility, around creating these inclusive experiences that are not only going to help you, but also help your users succeed. So, kind of giving you guys all the information about things that we've talked about during our time
Mm-hmm.
together. But then my also main purpose is to just connect do-gooders.
Mm.
I want to connect the people that are doing good so that we can start supporting them, supporting each other. I want to build a community that is super authentic and wants to help each other. So actually, every Friday I feature a do good member in what they're doing, and I've featured. There was this amazing little produce shop during COVID here in the Denver area that was called Little John's Produce, and they would take farmers' goods and produce and give them out to the community. And, they ran a business around that. A lot of it focused on nonprofit and donations. So connecting
Mm-hmm.
nonprofits with other nonprofits and just expanding the world of, this is how I do good in my business, and taking ideas from each other. You and I have talked about this before. doing good doesn't have to mean giving a paycheck
Hmm.
or giving giving time. You can do good by maybe serving on a board
Hmm.
or supporting somebody else's business or going and writing a positive review on somebody's page. There are so many ways that people can do good in this world that doesn't involve money. So I want people to discover those new ways by connecting with each other, and that's the purpose of the
Oh,
Facebook group.
that's so exciting. Yes. And I looked it up right before, and I'm going to go join it when we're done, right when we're done.
Yay!
But it's called Doing Good
Great.
Online. And we will have the link
Yes.
to the Facebook group in our show notes as well. So people can just click right on it and join there. But oh my gosh, that's exciting. Ooh, I love that. That just like gets my heart.
Thank you.
So I love it. Okay.
I know. I love learning all the different ways people are doing
I
good. It's
know.
amazing.
I know. It's so fun. And, again, whether it is on Facebook, I see things on Instagram. I just found out, and I didn't know if you knew this, but because Instagram is kind of owned by Facebook as well, right? I was doing a post today and it was
Yeah.
about a nonprofit, and you can actually run a fundraiser off of Instagram too. Like, how you can run a fundraiser off
Ooh,
of Facebook and, you've got the nonprofit that you
yes.
choose and you're raising money for this, nonprofit. I was posting something on Instagram, and right before I hit post, it said, would you like to add this as a fundraiser? And I was like, what? And it runs just
That's
like
awesome.
Facebook. So, I'm loving that more and more people, more and more businesses are joining in and trying to help
Hmm.
people really multiply their impact and get, that social
Yeah.
impact further, farther, wider, whatever it is, right? Um,
Making it easy for us.
yes. Okay. Let's see. So, do you have anything else that you want to talk about as far as maybe someone helping you make a bigger impact? Is it mostly right now joining this group and making sure that you can get people connected?
Joining this group, but also just let's talk. I love creating relationships with people in the entrepreneurial world. I mean, yes, it just I love creating those authentic
Mhm.
relationships. I don't care if eventually we end up in a business partnership or doing anything like that. I want to just learn about you, how I can support you, and how we can support each other in business. Like being an entrepreneur, being a solopreneur myself, it gets lonely sometimes. And I've really realized in the last 3 to 4 months that I love my little Zoom coffee get togethers. I love just connecting with people and relationship building to create long lasting friendships to where we're helping each other out and just get to know each other. So if you're wanting to do a Zoom coffee, I am all in on trying to just build some new relationships and see how I can help you and you can help me, and just business and in life.
Yeah.
Now we can do good together. So, if anybody's interested in just connecting and making new relationships, I'm all in.
Awesome. Yes, I totally love that too, because we all need that as well. Like you said, as a
Hmm.
solopreneur, sometimes you're just so busy working on the business, that you don't look up and you don't look at the
Hmm.
connections that are available around you, right? So, oh my gosh, I
Yeah.
love that. All right.
Hmm.
So, is there any, I think you've shared it with us, but I just want to make sure, are there any other favorite stories that
Yeah.
you want to share with my listeners, just
Mm.
while you experience giving back? I love the Children's Hospital in Seattle as well, but I didn't know if there was
Oh,
anything.
that was one of my favorite experiences overall. I've worked on a riverboat cruise, when everybody was still traveling again, and kind of looking at that demographic too was or persona of who would be using those. It was creating experiences that would actually, allow them to enjoy a vacation, but also strategically help them get around.
Mm,
And, because the age group on that one for a persona was a little bit older. And so having the empathetic heart and saying, oh, well, they don't want to spend forever sitting there tapping on a virtual concierge for, the riverboat just to find out the evening's dinner menu, right? It was thinking through, well, they'd rather be going and sitting on the sun deck. Let's make this really fast and easy so that they can figure out what they're having for dinner that night or what the options are. I think that following a customer's journey from an empathetic heart and an
mm,
empathetic mindset is just, it's so important. Like I said earlier, you can solve people's
mm-hmm,
problems very easily. From the business aspect, we were solving the problem of they don't have to go talk to a live person and wait in line.
mm-hmm.
They have a digital screen here that they can get all the information they need. That's how we solve the problem. But how do we empathetically solve the problem? We empathetically solve the problem by saying they'd rather be sitting on the sun deck right now. Let's help them get to the experience, the things that they need quickly and easily so that they don't have to be frustrated and so they can move on with their lives. That's the
Absolutely.
power of empathy.
Wow. Oh my gosh.
And
These
then,
examples
you know,
just make me
yeah.
understand it so much better. And it totally
Yeah.
makes sense. So I love that. And it also helps me understand the user experience that you're working on as well. Right.
Hmm.
And it
Yeah.
must be so interesting to be able to, as you're working with your clients, to step out and kind of watch what they're doing and who they're serving, because that's really who you have to become. Is like
Oh, yeah.
you have to become a different persona to be able to answer your clients' needs in order for them to provide what
Hmm.
they need to as far as a user experience for their, person that they're serving. So it's
Yeah.
so crazy to think about that, but it
Hmm.
is so you're just a supernatural like superhero is what I'm thinking. Because you're gonna have
Well,
to do
thank
that, like
you.
you have to do that. So it's so interesting,
Yeah.
explaining your perspective, and I'm totally getting it. I love it.
Hmm.
So my
Good.
last question, that I have for you
Hmm.
is, because I feel everybody has such great advice, but from you, what would
Hmm.
be one piece of advice that you could give to anybody just listening, just to get started in doing good? Whatever idea they
Yeah.
have, don't sit idle, but to take action on that. So what would be some great advice from you?
Yeah. The first thing that comes to mind is strategically thinking about who you're serving, right? So everybody does the persona. When we
Mhm.
think about business, we're like, who am I going to serve? Who's my target audience, right? From the marketing aspect, that's been drilled into our
Mhm.
head, marketing and sales, right? Who are we serving? Who's our target audience? Who are we going after? But when we think about those things, what do you think of? We think of demographic, we think of age, we think of male, female. Um, what I want to challenge people to think about is to go deeper
Mhm.
into that. Have that empathetic mindset. You to think about, what do they need?
Mhm.
What are their motivations? What are they motivated by? What are they frustrated by? And to take it even a step further, I want you to give them a name. That is probably one of the best things that I have been able to do in majority of the people's like clients that I've worked with, so that you can constantly reference back to them. What does Anna need in this situation? Would Anna like this new feature that we're putting out there? Would she like this e-commerce flow? What would she be searching for? If you actually put a name and a picture with it, it helps exponentially. And I actually have a freebie that people can access. It's called Creating Your Dream Client Blueprint, and it helps you just kind of think out all of these things. So I can also give you a link to that so that people can, start thinking more strategically about their target audience and go from there.
Ooh, I love that. Yes. So send that to me so that I can put it in the show notes as well. I think that's just so wise. I
Absolutely.
love it because when you talk about your customer or your avatar or your persona, you're totally right.
Mm-hmm.
People just
Yeah.
visualize, what do they look like? And that's it. Right. And it is very
Mm-hmm.
demographic, male,
Yeah.
female, like you said, age. But I love what
Mm-hmm.
you challenge people to do is to ask about the emotion, or go deeper, or go inside, right, and find
Yeah.
out if they would like it, if they need that, right. And I love the name part
Mm-hmm.
too. So that is so so
Yeah.
helpful.
I hang it up above my desk and I say it just so that that person is right there, and I'm just like, "Oh, Anna, what would you like?" It's just a great resource. It really
I
is.
love it. I love it. Well, thank you so much for spending some time with me. I just love the conversation that we
Of course.
had. I'm hoping that people start to think a different way, and how they can use, if it's their business, whether it's making relationships, of just going a little bit deeper in really understanding who are they
Hmm.
talking to, making this connection with, what, even if it's somebody who doesn't own a business yet,
Hmm.
right? But to just think about,
Yeah.
if you can just have that empathetic mindset going forward
Hmm.
to whatever connection that you're making, whether it's in business and life, a great friendship, whatever it is,
Hmm.
to start, I feel like the world literally would be a better place because we're thinking about the other person,
Absolutely.
right? More than ourselves. So I
100%.
love that so, so, so much.
Find the way that you can do good in the world in your own unique way,
Hmm.
and this world will turn
Yeah.
around, and, you know, for the better. All things will get
Yeah.
better. And it's just wonderful to think about, the unity
Yeah, I
aspect of it.
totally agree. Thank you so much, Natalie, for your time and for being
You're
here on the
welcome. Thank
show.
you for having me.
so much for tuning in to Connecting a Better World, and thank you, NOCO FM, for supporting this show. If you connected to something in this episode, we would love to hear from you. Our contact info will be listed in the show notes, as well as you can reach us on our social media channels. Please feel free to share our podcast with your friends and loved ones. For more shows, please tune in to noco.fm online.
This is Loudspeaker